Listen to my story. My name is Daniel Brunner, and I come from Israel. I never imagined the path I was about to walk would bring me face to face with fear, pain, and the impossible. This happened on June 14, 2026, a date etched into my memory forever. I had always been a seeker, someone searching for truth beyond the ordinary. For months, I had been drawn to a quiet voice online, a man who spoke about faith and hope, about Jesus Christ in a way that felt alive and real. His words resonated in a way I hadn't felt before, stirring something deep inside me. So I made a choice. I traveled to Iran. It wasn't meant to be dangerous. I told myself it was just a visit, a journey to meet someone who could help me understand what I had been missing. But deep down, I had no idea what awaited me. So I made a choice. I traveled to Iran. It wasn't meant to be dangerous. I told myself it was just a visit, a journey to meet someone who could help me understand what I had been missing. But deep down, I had no idea what awaited me. The moment I arrived in Tehran, everything felt different. The streets were crowded, yet tense. Faces around me were wary, suspicious, alert. Every step I took felt heavy, as if invisible eyes followed me. I tried to focus on my purpose, to meet the man who had guided me, but unease lingered in the air. We met in a quiet, unassuming room, far from the chaos outside. He spoke softly, but every word cut straight through my heart. Jesus is not just a prophet, he said. He is the way, the truth, and the life. At that moment, I realized that the truth I was seeking wasn't in the world outside, it was in him. But I wasn't ready yet, not fully. Over the next few days, we met secretly. He shared stories of people who had found hope in the darkest circumstances. He read scriptures with me, and for the first time, I felt something stir inside me, something I couldn't ignore. Curiosity turned into belief, and belief began to grow quietly, like a seed in my soul. Then came the night everything changed. As I walked away from one of our meetings, I noticed a car parked across the street. Its windows were dark, the engine running silently. My heart started pounding. I tried to ignore it, but instinct screamed at me danger was near. Before I could react, two men grabbed me. Strong, silent, relentless. They covered my mouth and forced me into the car. Every thought raced through my mind, my family, my life, my mistakes. The ride was endless. The fear inside me grew like a storm, pounding in my chest. When the car stopped, they dragged me into a building that smelled of cold metal and despair. There were no windows, only a dim light that flickered weakly above me. I was alone, stripped of everything familiar, and completely powerless. I tried to understand. Why me? I whispered in the darkness, but no answer came. Only silence, thick and heavy. The truth settled into me slowly. I was in their hands now, and my life had taken a turn I could never have imagined. And yet, even in that darkness, a small flicker of hope remained. I remembered the words of the man who had guided me. Jesus is the way. I clung to them, unsure why, but knowing that somehow, somewhere, help existed beyond this nightmare. This was only the beginning. The real trials, the true tests of courage and faith, were yet to come. But that night, in the cold, silent room, I made a quiet decision. I would not give up. No matter what happened, I would hold on to hope. And perhaps, just perhaps, that hope would be the very thing that saved me. Listen carefully. This is the story of how faith met fear, and how the impossible became reality. The moment they dragged me into that cold, dark building, fear became a living thing inside me. I had never felt so powerless in my life. My hands were tied behind my back, my legs weak from exhaustion, and my mind raced with questions I couldn't answer. What had I done wrong? Why me? And most importantly, would I survive this night? They pushed me into a narrow room, stripped of windows, light flickering dimly above. A metal table, a single chair, and the echo of their footsteps were all I could see. Then one of them spoke, cold and sharp. Name: Daniel. Daniel Brunner, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Country: Israel, I said, and the atmosphere shifted immediately. Their eyes narrowed. The room seemed to close in. Questions came fast, repeated, relentless. Who sent you? Who are you working for? What are your plans? Every answer I gave was met with suspicion, every explanation dismissed. It wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough. They wanted confession. They wanted fear. And they wanted control. Time blurred. I couldn't tell day from night. Hunger gnawed at me. Exhaustion weighed me down. But the mental torment was far worse. They brought recordings of my conversations, my meetings. Proof, they said, that I had broken the law, that I had spread a forbidden faith. My heart sank. I wasn't ready for this fight. Yet I had no choice but to endure. The interrogations were grueling. Threats, silence, repeated accusations, they tested every part of me. I felt my spirit bending, my courage faltering. I wanted to cry, to scream, to beg, but I knew it wouldn't help. All I could do was pray silently, hoping for a spark of light in the darkness. And then, one night, they changed tactics. No shouting, no anger, just a cold, silent stare. They handed me a piece of paper, and I saw my name. The words confession written in a language I barely understood. My stomach turned. Signing it meant a lie. Refusing meant, I didn't know, but the fear was tangible, pressing down on me like a heavy stone. I refused, and in that refusal, the tension rose. They didn't strike immediately, but I could feel it coming, something worse than hunger, worse than exhaustion, the kind of fear that burrows deep into your soul and makes you question every choice you've ever made. That night, I lay on the cold floor of my cell, my body shaking uncontrollably, and I remembered the words of the man who had first told me about Jesus. He is the way, the truth, the life. I whispered those words over and over, clinging to them as if they were a lifeline. I had nothing else, nothing at all. Days, maybe nights passed. I lost track of time. Each interrogation pushed me further, but inside, a tiny seed of defiance and hope began to grow. I didn't know how I would survive what was coming, but I knew that giving up was not an option. Even in the darkness, I held onto that spark, and then they told me what was coming next. A punishment, severe and irreversible. My mind froze. I had no idea how I would face it, but deep down, I realized that fear alone could not define me. There had to be a way through this. There had to be hope even if I couldn't see it yet. Listen carefully, I whispered to myself in the silence of the cell. What comes next will test everything in you. But this is where faith begins to matter. I didn't know it yet, but the darkest day of my life was almost here, and it would be the day that would either break me or change me forever. I never imagined fear could feel so heavy, so alive. Until that day, that morning, the guards came quietly, without shouting or warning. There was no time to prepare. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. The metal chains on my wrists rattled as they pulled me forward, and with each step, my mind raced through every moment that had led me here. They brought me into a cold room, sterile and bare. The smell of metal and disinfectant was sharp in my nose. I looked around, searching for any sign of mercy, any hint of hope, but the faces of those men were expressionless, their eyes dark and unyielding. I realized in that instant they had no intention of stopping. This was happening, and there was nothing I could do. The fear inside me was paralyzing. I tried to pray silently, to call out to God in my heart, but my voice felt trapped in my throat. Every thought I had, my family, my life, the dreams I hadn't yet lived flashed before my eyes. I felt the weight of every choice I had ever made, every step that had brought me to this room. And in that moment, I understood something deeply terrifying. The world had turned upside down, and I was powerless to stop it. They strapped me down to a chair. The metal bit into my arms and legs, cold and unforgiving. I could feel my pulse thumping in my ears. I tried to focus on breathing, to calm my mind, but fear had taken control. I closed my eyes and whispered one word repeatedly, like a lifeline. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And then it began. I won't go into the gruesome details, because words cannot capture the shock, the pain, the sheer disbelief. But I will tell you this. It was the closest I had ever been to death without actually dying. My body screamed, my mind fought against reality, and in that unbearable pain, despair threatened to swallow me whole. I felt the world tilt and fall. I felt the darkness closing in, and yet, amidst all of it, something miraculous happened. In the deepest moment of my fear, I felt a presence, not of the room, not of the people around me, but a presence that was calm, gentle, unshakable. It was as if a voice spoke directly to my soul. Do not fear, I am with you. In that instant, something shifted. My heart, which had been pounding with terror, began to feel strange, not relief, not yet, but a small, unexplainable peace. My mind, which had been consumed by panic, suddenly had clarity. I understood that I was not alone, that whatever was happening, I was being watched, protected, guided. The moment passed. The pain remained, the fear remained, but the despair was gone. I realized that faith, real faith, could exist even in the darkest hours. It could exist in the moments when everything else seemed lost. And in that realization, I found strength I didn't know I had. Afterwards, I was left in the cold, silent cell again. My body was weak, my spirit exhausted, but my heart was alive. Something within me had changed. I had touched a power beyond myself, beyond the fear, beyond the pain. I didn't know yet how I would survive what came next, but I knew one thing for certain. I was not alone. Jesus was with me, and that presence was stronger than any fear, any punishment, any darkness. Listen carefully, I whispered to myself in the stillness. This is the moment that will define you. The world may have taken much, but it cannot touch the hope that lives inside your soul. That hope will carry you through. After that day, I was left alone again, in the cold, silent room. My body was weak. My spirit had been tested in ways I never thought possible. Fear and pain had visited me, but something else began to grow inside me. A quiet, trembling hope that refused to be extinguished. I sat on the floor, my head bowed, my eyes closed. I whispered the only words I could. Jesus, please help me. I don't know if anyone can save me, but I know you can. At first, nothing happened. The silence was deafening, and the emptiness of the cell pressed down on me. I felt alone, completely alone, but I kept praying. I kept speaking to him, even when I doubted, even when my heart was full of fear. I didn't know what would happen next. I only knew that I needed help beyond my own strength. Then, something incredible began to happen. I felt a warmth inside me, spreading from my chest, filling me in a way I couldn't explain. It wasn't the warmth of the room or the sun outside, it was different. It was alive, comforting, real. It was as if a hand, unseen but undeniable, had touched my soul. A peace settled over me, deeper than any fear I had felt, stronger than the despair that had almost consumed me. I realized, in that moment, that I was not alone. Jesus was with me, not in a distant, abstract way, but present, real, holding me through the pain, walking with me through the darkness. I could feel his presence, his love, and his power. And for the first time since I had been taken, I truly believed that I could survive this nightmare. Days passed, or maybe it was hours. I lost track of time. But I kept praying, kept holding on to that faith. And slowly, everything began to shift. My fear, which had once been all-consuming, began to lose its grip. My mind, once clouded with panic, became clear. My heart, once heavy with despair, felt light. I knew that whatever happened next, I would not face it alone. I began to remember the man who had first told me about Jesus, and the words he had spoken. He is the way, the truth, and the life. Now, I understood. It wasn't just words. It was real. Faith wasn't something abstract or distant. It was a power that could carry you through the impossible, even when everything else seemed lost. Then, the guards came again. But this time, I was different. I was not the same man they had captured. I was not defined by fear. I was not broken. I stood a little taller, my heart a little stronger, and I knew, deep down, that my life would never be the same. Something greater than the world's darkness had touched me, and I could feel it coursing through me, guiding me, strengthening me, preparing me for what came next. Listen carefully, I whispered in the quiet, as the room seemed to hold its breath with me. Faith can do what nothing else can. In the darkest, most impossible moments, it can reach where no hand can touch. No word can comfort, no escape can deliver. And if you allow it, it can save you. From that day, even as the pain lingered and my body carried the mark of what had happened, I began to feel hope again. I began to believe that survival, recovery, and even joy were possible. And most importantly, I began to understand that faith could move mountains because it had already moved me. This is not the end of my story, I whispered. It is the beginning of a new life. A life defined not by fear, but by faith, courage, and the power of Jesus to save even when everything seems lost. Never thought I would see the outside world again. After everything I endured, the arrest, the interrogations, the pain, and the loss, I had wondered if survival was even possible. But somehow, by a power far greater than myself, I did survive. And now, I want the world to hear my story. The days that followed were slow, painful, and uncertain. My body ached, my mind was still clouded by fear, but the presence I had felt in that darkest moment never left me. Every step I took toward freedom was guided by something I could not see, something I could only feel deep in my soul. It was hope, it was faith, it was Jesus. Eventually, I was released. How it happened, I will never fully know. Perhaps it was fate, perhaps it was divine intervention. All I know is that I walked out of that building alive, and the world seemed brighter than I had ever remembered. The air felt sweeter, the sun warmer, and I could breathe again, not just with my lungs, but with my spirit. Life after that day was not easy. I learned to live with one hand, to adapt, to face the practical challenges of daily life. But even more than that, I learned to live with purpose. Every moment became precious. Every smile, every word, every prayer carried deeper meaning. I realized that survival is not just about keeping your body alive, it is about letting your spirit thrive, even in the face of unimaginable trials. I began to share my story, not to frighten people, but to inspire them, To tell them that even in the darkest places, there is hope, that even when fear seems overwhelming, faith can carry you through. That Jesus' love, His power, His presence can save when nothing else can. People ask me why I survived, why I was still here, and I tell them the same thing every time. It was not my strength. It was not my courage. It was faith. Faith that I would hold on to, even when all else was lost. Faith that there was a purpose to my suffering. Faith that I could be a living testimony for others who might one day face their own impossible trials. Listen to my story, I say now to you, because it is not just my story. It could be yours too. Life will test you. Fear will try to take hold. Pain will challenge your limits. But if you hold on to hope, if you allow faith to guide you, you can survive. You can rise. You can overcome. And this is my message. No matter what darkness you face, no matter what fear threatens to destroy you, there is a light that will never go out. There is a power that will never abandon you. And there is hope that can carry you through every impossible moment. My life has been forever changed. My hand may have been taken, but my spirit was strengthened. My faith was born in the fire of suffering, and now I live every day as proof that miracles are real, that Jesus saves, and that no matter how hopeless the situation seems, God's hand is always with you. So listen carefully, believe, hold on, and never give up. Because if I survived, so can you. And the power that saved me can save you too.